If we do this, we are officially a monopoly. That sentence isn't from a movie script. It is a recorded quote from an internal Apple executive email that the U.S. Department of Justice just brought into federal court in February 2026. For 20 years, Apple has built what they call an ecosystem, but the U.S. government calls it a golden cage. And today, the wrecking ball has finally arrived. In this video, we are pulling back the curtain on the biggest antitrust trial of the century. We have analyzed over 500 pages of newly unsealed secret documents that prove one thing. Apple didn't win the market just by being better. They won by making it impossible for you to leave. Prepare to see how they weaponized iMessage as a social tool, why they intentionally degraded your friends' videos, and why your next iPhone might be the last one of its kind. The switching cost doctrine. To understand why you can't seem to quit the iPhone, you have to understand a concept internal Apple memos call switching costs. In a healthy, free market, you stay with a company because they provide the best service at the best price. In a monopoly, you stay because leaving is too painful, financially, technically, and socially. The 2026 legal discovery has brought to light emails where Apple's top leadership discussed in cold and calculating detail how to increase this pain. They deliberately blocked the Apple Watch from working with Android phones, not because of technical hurdles. Their own engineers said it was possible, but because they knew the watch would act as a tether that would lock you into the iPhone forever. They stopped competing on innovation and started competing on friction. They realized that if they could make the exit hard enough, you'd never look at the competition again. The iMessage social weapon. Let's talk about the green bubbles. To an American teenager in 2026, a green bubble in a group chat isn't just a technical glitch, it's a social stigma, and we now have the proof that this was engineered. In a 2013 memo, Apple's senior VP of software vetoed bringing iMessage to Android with a chillingly honest sentence. "I worry that iMessage on Android would simply serve to remove an obstacle to iPhone families giving their kids Android phones." Translation, they knew parents were buying iPhones for their children specifically so those children wouldn't be socially excluded by their peers. Apple used social engineering to create a class hierarchy in your pocket. But it goes deeper. The DOJ has presented evidence that Apple intentionally broke the quality of videos and photos sent from Android users to iPhones. Have you ever wondered why a video from your friend with a Samsung looks like 144p garbage on your screen? It wasn't a bad signal. It was hidden code designed to make the competitor's product look inferior. They didn't want a better user experience. They wanted a walled experience. The youth market memos, the payoff. We've reached the part I warned you about, the youth market memos. The government has presented documents showing that Apple monitored the lock-in rate of teenagers with military precision. They discovered that if they could capture a young user in the ecosystem before the age of 18, the statistical probability of that user ever switching brands for the rest of their life dropped to nearly zero. The DOJ argument is that Apple isn't selling technology, they are selling dependency. They created what lawyers call a monopolistic feedback loop. The more Apple services you use, iCloud, Apple Music, Fitness Plus, News, the more expensive it becomes for you to walk away. It is a scorched earth strategy where the competition isn't even allowed to breathe. They aren't building fans, they are building a digital hostage situation, and they started with your children.
Now, let's look at the real reason for this war: the money. Apple takes a 30% cut of nearly every single dollar you spend on digital apps. They call it a commission for security. The DOJ calls it a monopoly tax. The newly unsealed middleware memos of 2026 show that Apple was terrified of super apps. Think about it. If an app like WeChat or an Xbox Cloud Gaming Hub worked perfectly on an iPhone, the iPhone's specific operating system would become irrelevant. You wouldn't need an Apple phone, you just need a screen. To prevent this, Apple spent years banning these technologies, suffocating innovation just to protect their 30% toll booth. The DOJ estimate is staggering. This Apple tax has artificially inflated the price of digital subscriptions by billions of dollars for American consumers over the last decade. You aren't paying for security, you're paying for the wall. Privacy as a marketing shield. Apple's defense is always the same. We do this for your privacy. It is a brilliant marketing campaign. But the 2026 trial brought a surprise witness from Google to the stand. They confirmed that Apple accepts billions of dollars every year to keep Google as the default search engine on Safari. This deal sends your search data, the most private data you have, directly to the world's largest data harvester. The government argues that Apple's privacy stance is actually a shield to block other companies from accessing your data, so that Apple is the only one who can monetize you. The walled garden isn't there to protect you from the wolves. It's there to ensure that Apple is the only one allowed to shear the sheep. When internal teams pointed out that certain competing apps were perfectly safe, leadership blocked them anyway because they were a strategic threat. Security was the excuse. Control was the goal. The final verdict and your digital future. What happens next? The DOJ isn't just looking for a fine. A $1 billion fine is a rounding error for Apple. They want structural remedies. We are talking about an iMessage that works with everyone, third-party app stores that don't charge a 30% tax, and an Apple Watch that pairs with any device you choose. Will this destroy the Apple experience we've grown to love, or will it finally liberate the technology market from the grip of a single gatekeeper? One thing is certain, the era of the digital gatekeeper is ending. The iPhone of 2027 might be the most open device in history, or it might be the start of a new kind of tech war. So I have to ask you, do you value the comfort of the cage or the freedom of an open market? Let me know in the comments. I want to know if you've ever felt locked in by Apple. And if you want to stay ahead of the laws that govern your digital life, make sure to subscribe to Legal Discovery Files. The next chapter of this battle is coming sooner than you think. Thanks for watching.